Brooke and I were talking, and Brooke actually made a good point that I'll get to later. Should have been 50 to nothing. Like, it should have
Agreed.
absolutely been a blowout. Um, but Brooke was saying, no, we can't let off because they're going to use this as like fuel to keep going. And that's exactly what they're fucking doing. He was exactly right.
Well,
And
I
now it's
mean,
just annoying looking at all this shit on Twitter.
yeah, just at face value, like you take stock of like what actually happened, and our offense only scored 21 points on maybe one of the worst Power 5 defenses out there. And I just, we're up 28 nothing at half. Like, even if we get one touchdown in the second half, which is being very modest, I think I feel a little bit better. But it almost felt like we were just trying to get out of there to not lose that game. And I really just hated how the offense looked in the second half. And Matt Rule's press conference this morning, he even said we should have scored 42 to 50 points. And it's just like, yes, our defense is like great, and there was never a shot Colorado was going to win that game. We still have, I feel like, a long way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. I feel the sentiment. What do you think was the biggest factor for that? Because I've been seeing a lot of Satterfield slander, but it didn't seem like the game plan was that much different. I mean, they had a couple of long drives. One got negated by penalty. Both of them kind of got thrown off by penalties. And when field goal range is the 12-yard line, you kind of limited on what you can do offensively there. Um, but I guess, yeah. What did you think it was?
So, I mean, Tyler kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit where that was a horribly officialed game where we probably got one or two touchdowns taken off the board by the refs, but like neither here nor there. Like we have to be better than that. But we were 3 for 12 on third downs against Colorado, which is very worrisome. And it just felt like every series that we were at like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 12 or like third and forever. And I'm like, all right, you have to have something better on first and second down to keep your true freshman quarterback out of those situations. And it's just, I don't know if it's a lot of what Rule said was it was guys missing blocks, whether that be O line or wide receivers. But I mean, as OC, your job is to score points. And it really just felt like Satterfield, the way he called plays, put us in a bad spot all night. Or I shouldn't say all night, in the second half.
Yeah. In the second half, it was basically first down, run right up the middle. Second down, probably run up the middle or run to either side. And then 3rd and 12, it's let's try to run like a 2 yard dig route and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right there because my eyes told me that the scheme what was about the same as it was in the first half, minus the deep shots that Dylan was taking in the first half. I didn't see any of those until late in the game on the second half. But and on the officials, I'm glad you brought that up because I mean, even if you're in the camp of like they're not that awful and those calls were fine calls, they were so nitpicky and they they ruined the drives. They ruined the rhythm, if nothing else, if absolutely nothing else. Like there were a couple of ones where I'm like, okay, I guess that was holding, real nitpicky, but if nothing else, it just ruins the rhythm. And rhythm was kind of the one thing that I feel like they were missing the whole second half, that and energy. And I don't know how much of that you can put on to Satterfield, but nonetheless, not an ideal second half for sure. But I will say they felt in control the entire game. And same thing with UTEP because I also see folks, and it's different, chirping about how Nebraska didn't score that many points against UTEP. Again, very different. But I've seen a couple of tweets that bring up the fact that they've only scored 10 points in the second half. I'm like, that's not. They're in control, and I'll take that.
Very true. The thing that, like, I would like to see more out of Satterfield's offense, I suppose, is using the intermediate routes. It feels like everything's like a touch pass or like a swing pass or a screen or it's just a straight go ball. And, you know, as a secondary, Colorado really didn't have to worry about any of that. It's like, hey, either it's going to get out of his hands quick or he's going deep. But like you said, you can't be mad at a decisive win over your rival.
Yeah, it does feel very uninspired with like the route combinations and the play ideas. I mean, Ja'Cory Barney has been the talk of the town since that game. He's very, very fun to watch. Really even mentioned him by name today. Got to get him the ball as many times as you possibly can because he's really fun and really good, seemingly. So, yeah, it's just the wide receiver screens. Just, I don't know. It's very basic, almost like pretty solid off high school offense is what I would kind of equate that to. Like Texas Division A football high school offense.
I think you're very spot on with that.
Yeah, that's some good analysis, and I think you're on the right page. I do wish it would have looked better, especially in the second half. Especially, and I mean, hindsight's 2020. But I also think that the disastrous outcome is that we keep trying to be aggressive. We keep trying to push downfield, but then it ends up in turnovers, and they start to get confidence back. And I don't think you should be playing scared, but I think that's probably what it was. And I'll take that. I mean, 0 interceptions through 2 games. Jefferson's probably had 17 up to this point last year.
Hey, quit it.
And it's not, it's not being hyper aggressive. More so, it's just like the name of the game for the offense is to score points. And I mean, statistically, North Dakota State had a better offense against Colorado than we did. Like, that's just what it is right now. But I mean, like we said, decisive dub. It's only week 2. Like, it feels like we can only go up from here.
Yeah, overall, I feel great about their performance. Like I said, I wish the offense would have been better, but the defense, I'm so juiced by, because I thought, like, even if you had like sat me down and interrogated, like what's going to happen, I'd be like, well, Colorado's going to get theirs. No, they didn't get shit. They were off. Shooter Sanders was in hell all night. Travis Hunter got a couple of big catches in garbage time, but otherwise he was in a phone booth. I mean, that defense was unbelievable against like NFL level guys.
That's the encouraging thing where, I mean, Tommy Hill, that everybody's talking about now, is going to be like a late first rounder. Nash and Ty got to be draft picks. And our linebackers, the guys that no one's talking about, Bayer and Bullock, were awesome, running around like heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah, it sucks to lose Bayer first half next game, but thankfully it's just you and I. Yeah, Bullock played out of his mind. I mean, I think his coverage led to that pick 6 where he picked up Travis Hunter on that stick
absolutely
route.
Right. He came in and jumped the slants, and Tommy Hill got to hang back and hawk the ball there. That's absolutely right.
So Bullock himself had Shadur in a pretzel there, which is great to see.
God, that was awesome. And also, and just kind of circling back to where we were at the beginning of the year, all that we were asking for was like an average offense. I feel like that was at least average.
Yeah. I mean,
with some flashes.
The sky is not falling. Like, Dylan didn't turn the ball over. We didn't fumble. It's just, it would have really just, we could have really put our stamp on it if it was like 49-10 or 42-10, and But
yeah, I love the sound of that.
You got to think about too. Dylan missed some deep throws.
Yeah, the timing was
off. He wasn't very far off, but he was off a little bit. So even if 1 or 2 of those connects, I think we're not talking about this right now. So a few things definitely go a different way. And I just can't get this specific penalty I'm thinking about with officiating that game because I think Ja'Cory Barney was on an end around,
Yeah,
and
Ramir
Ramir
Johnson.
Johnson was holding or something.
Just knocked his ass to the ground. That's all it was.
Everybody on the NBC network was like, "That's just a pancake. That's just a really fucking good block." Is all that is.
But then also thinking about how they were calling the game and how they were wrong about almost everything, kind of made me second guess myself a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe it was a holding because they're saying it wasn't. So,
Well, and then
all-time bad Booth, by the way.
the one where I think Shador tried to get out of the pocket and like in real time, you saw Nash's jersey get grabbed and just nothing, and we're like, what the hell? And I mean, they threw 22 flags, and then something that obvious doesn't get called was crazy.
Yeah, it was awful. And my gosh, it ruined the flow of the game because even by the end of it, I'm like, just get this fucking game over with.
And that's what kind of left like a sour taste in my mouth is everybody was like, let's just get it over with. We're like, let's just take our dub and move on. Whereas it wasn't. The first half was electric, but like by the end, everybody was just like, all right, this is a shit show. Let's go home, take our dub, and
yeah,
it just
really felt like that. And so overall, I don't have a whole lot of concerns about the offense. I think they'll figure it out. A lot of rhythm and things, a lot of timing things. The one thing that I am very concerned about, which I've been concerned about since day one, is why don't we have a kicker? We don't even have a kicker to kick off anymore. They had Bushimi kick that last one that ended up going through the end zone. So we don't have a place kicker, don't have a kickoff kicker without him getting pulled. I mean, what's the problem? What's going on?
I think Alvano's has just got to be mental stuff because he has all the physical tools. Like we've seen it. If you doubt whether or not Tristan Alvano can kick, just Google his high school highlights. But yeah, I think it's a case of the yips with him. I don't know a whole lot about the whole kid, but feels like he should be kicker one going forward.
Well, that's what I would think. But, I mean, they've had kicking competitions leading up to this, and I'm assuming Alvano won those kicking competitions in practice, which I guess, to your point, might be the problem. When there's nobody in the stands, that might be a different ballgame.
They're just, if you're around sports long enough, there are some guys that are just practice warriors, and then they get in a game and it's just not the same. But, I don't know. It's easy for us to guess being on the outside, but those coaches see it every day. And, Hull must not be as good as Alvano if he hasn't won that job yet.
And I mean, I see a freshman kicker boot it from 53 yards in Iowa City to win the game in front of 60,000 terrorists screaming and obscenities at him, I'm sure, and just horrible things, and not even phased. Would have been good from 64. And yet we can't kick a 32-yarder.
Well, I wonder if it's more so Rule is trying to instill the confidence back in Alvano because as Brooke, you said, he can kick the damn ball. He can.
Oh,
it's just he can't do it in the game. So I wonder if Rule is just trying to save him one last time before we eventually switch to the other kid.
And it's not even like he's just, missing. It's the fact that the one he kicked was a wobbler and it was not even like close. And that was what, less than 40?
32 yards.
Yeah. Oh my! I mean, like that just. I mean, if he has any aspirations of going to the league, extra points are 33 yards now. So.
Also, we're not thinking enough about, he did have surgery in the offseason, so I wonder if that has something to do with it. But at the same time, if you're not able to do it, then don't cost your team points by trying to go out there and do it.
It changes how you run offense down there in that part of the field if you know that you can't kick.
And I think the excuses are running out for Alvano, where it's like if you can do it, great. If not, like we got to figure out plan B at this point going forward because there's going to be situations in conference play where we're like, all right, we need these 3 points.
Yeah.
I mean, their whole mantra this offseason was chasing 3. What's a good way to get 3 points? Kicking field goals. Oh, my gosh.
It's sad. And I want him to succeed. But
I want to ask you guys is after seeing what we did to Colorado, does that change your outlook on any of the future games where you're like, we may drop that one, or I feel confident about this one, or you standing firm on your
Um,
predictions?
it's nothing that Nebraska has done or hasn't done. It's more so that I wasn't expecting Illinois to be kind of good. I still think that we win that game. I just think it's going to be closer than it would have to start the season.
And I'll go on the other end. Not that it has much to do with Nebraska and how they played, but Wisconsin looks a lot shakier than I would have pegged them at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And I guess I would say, too, before I could envision a blowout against Ohio State, now I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And what I will say about Nebraska's play and how I view them now, it's very affirming that like I'm starting to see it come together. Because I going into the season, of course, we knew that the defense was going to be really good. Nash and Ty were going to be a problem. Tommy Hill's a dog, but I mean, until you see it, until you see a couple of wins in the win column, until you see them put NFL quarterbacks in a blender, it's very affirming. So it's tough to say because we're 2 games that we should have won. That's more so what I'm worried about as far as just winning the games that you're supposed to win. And so far, so good, but I would like to see a few more under the belt.
I think for me, the biggest thing that's going to be telling is the first couple times we get in some adverse situations, how we respond. Hopefully, Illinois strains us a little bit where, the offense has to go into another gear and, the defense has to really buckle down and keep guys out of the end zone. But, I'm glad we get Purdue on the road before we go to Indiana because I feel like if those were flipped, I would feel like, we might drop that Indiana one. But hopefully we take care of business. We're 7-0 going into Ohio State. In worst case scenario, 6-1. But going down the stretch, the only 2 games that really truly worry me about dropping are Ohio State and USC. I don't know how you guys.
USC does look good. USC looks good.
They're tough, and their defense got a lot better, so it's not just going to be a shootout by any means.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun season though.
It does kind of feel like, as a Nuggets fan, it feels a little bit like that. Where, I mean, for years, Nuggets fans are banging the table about Nikola Jokic and how good he is, and how this is a championship team, but just injuries and bad luck or whatever. And then they finally win. And you're like, I've been telling you this. Now what I'm seeing is finally coming to fruition. Kind of feels like that. We're like, in my bones, I knew that Nebraska was going to be good, but I got to see it. Now we're seeing it.
Yeah, and you see a lot of the talking heads start to say that now as well. Like, oh, they used to be the crazy Nebraska fans. Oh, this year's our year. Well, you're finally right. People are starting to say that. So,
it's crazy what people's opinions on you will do when you're not, minus 18 and the second worst team in the country at turning the ball over will do.
Yeah. We didn't mention, though, we're ranked.
We are ranked.
Huge.
I didn't even have that on the sheet. That's right. First time since 2019.
How does it feel?
It feels It feels so fitting that the last time we were ranked, we lost to Colorado, dropped out of the rankings, and now we finally get to beat up on Colorado to get back into the rankings.
2018 when we were playing in Boulder?
2018 was in Lincoln. That was
what year?
Yeah. Because it was Sefao Lufau in 2018 who hit that crazy game-winning touchdown pass in 2018, and then Boulder must have been
2019,
where shocker, Nebraska didn't have a good enough kicker in overtime. Some things don't change.
What was the year you were saying the last time we were ranked?
2019. Because that was Scott Frost's second year. We were supposed to win the West that year. I think we were ranked the 24th.
That was 2 a.m.'s sophomore year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
Had some Heisman.
Feels like forever ago.
Oh, my gosh. What a world.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of crazy that we're ranked 23 but NIU is ranked 25. I don't know. I guess we haven't beat any ranked teams. I just feel like what we've shown, the fact that we're only 2 spots away from NIU is kind of crazy, but
Well, I mean, overall, I think the AP poll is dog shit. I really hate a lot of things about it, but except Nebraska, they got that right, I guess. But then, I see what you mean, and I'm buying into it too. Shout out John Wilner, who had Nebraska, I think, as high as 13. But his poll is all sorts of fucked.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's hard to sit here and say NIU shouldn't be ranked when they're 2-0 and they have a road win against the number 5 team in the country. Like that's
the problem with the AP poll is that Notre Dame should have never been that high in the first place.
I'm not saying that NIU shouldn't be ranked. It's weird that they're so close together. Is all I'm saying.
Like you think we should be lower or they should be higher?
We should be like 21, 22 if they're 25. Okay, again, this is just my delusional Nebraska brain because we just came off a big win and I feel like we're way better. But again, haven't shown anything quite like beating the number 5 team in the nation. So
I feel it.
And I think that kind of observations will come.
Yeah.
Which is all part of the process. But I'm hyped. Boston College getting ranked is also very silly to me. I was on a big red pad. Missouri's up to 6 now.
It's kind of dumb that Boston College got ranked because, yes, they beat the number 10 team, but they were already 0-1 at that point and were probably going to be pretty close to being out of the rankings. It's just because there wasn't a poll from week 0 to week 1 to change it.
Right.
So, I mean, if there was ever a fraudulent ranked team, well, they play Missouri this week, so they're probably going to get blown out and drop out anyway. So,
well, that's my conspiracy theory is that the AP poll just wanted to give that SEC team a ranked win. So they're like, okay, let's.
And speaking of that,
throw Boston College.
Illinois is 26 this week. I feel like if Nebraska takes care of business in Illinois, like they're going to rank Illinois just because they want another ranked matchup next week.
I'll take that. That sounds good to me.
Wait, Illinois isn't ranked? I thought they were.
No, they were 26th in the AP poll.
Oh, I thought I saw a ranking that they were 22. Maybe that was somebody. Maybe it was a one poll or somebody's like, oh, these are my predictions, or I don't know. Maybe I didn't look at it close enough, but
I think they deserve to be.
Yeah, but you could also say, like you guys are talking about Boston College, you could say the same thing about Georgia Tech, right? Like, yeah, they beat Florida State, and they got ranked, and then they
Well, I think
kind of got shit on by Syracuse.
They made it close there at the end, but I think you're seeing that beating Florida State was not that big of an accomplishment for anybody, but they still had that ranking next to their name, so people are going to respect that win. So
yeah. Also, Kyle McCord, dog.
Hand up. I will admit I was wrong about him, and the whole country owes him an apology, and I'll be the one leading that apology tour because that guy can fucking sling it.
Well, if only we had somebody on the show who's been yapping about how good Kyle McCord is.
Doesn't owe him an apology. Myself and Brandon.
No, fuck you guys. I'm not.
You were on that fucking train the whole time.
But furthermore, on that point, I want to point out that Michigan had a chance to do the funniest thing ever and get him out of the transfer portal.
And they'd be so much better off.
Oh, my God. With what Michigan currently has, I mean, I think Michigan could go back to the playoff if they had McCord. Now I'm like, Michigan's going to lose at least 3, probably more games this year with what they have.
That was another affirming thing for me this week because all season I'm like, why do people – what am I missing about Michigan that people think they're going to be in the top tier of the Big Ten?
They have a couple talented guys on defense, and then Donovan Edwards. Everybody thinks so highly of Donovan Edwards, and I mean, I don't think he is what Blake Corum was or even close to that. So
I think you're absolutely right.
And Harbaugh makes a difference. Going from Harbaugh to Sharon Moore is a tough drop-off.
I did see somebody, I don't know if it was like a news outlet or something, they said that they fumbled that so bad because they were essentially chasing last year's Michigan team. So that's why they hired him instead of going out and finding like a big name coach to fill that position. Makes you think, makes you wonder.
Makes me think of all the Michigan fans who yap at Ryan Day, born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. I imagine starting at third base and having to trot back on to second base or first base. Unbelievable stuff.
And the thing is, like, after this year going into next year, the sanctions could be handed out for Michigan. So, like, we may see like a 10, 15-year run of Michigan just being terrible.
I can't believe
It's
it.
sad to see. The big house would be not so big anymore, huh?
It's still a name brand, so I mean they could right the ship and get another big name coach, but I mean the outlook is looking bleak for them as of right now.
Well, if we're being
Imagine
honest, I don't think Michigan's an A job.
it's a big program, like it's a big brand name.
Well, I think of with all that's happened and like with the sanctions probably coming, it's probably not going to be an A job, but like just off of like tradition and the big house and resources, it's an A job.
I mean, I'm just thinking like when I think of an A job, I think of people leaving B jobs for, and if I have a B job, I don't know why I don't think Michigan's the spot. I mean, you're in Ohio State's shadow. You're not exactly a recruiting hotbed. I mean, yeah, you have the resources and everything, but even USC dealing with those sanctions, they got big names.
Yeah.
But I don't think like how. I mean, when Alabama's coaching job came up, and it's different, everybody was on the list of possible target. Michigan's that list is so much smaller.
I would argue that when the Alabama job came open, that's not an A job because who wants to follow Nick Saban? You know what I mean?
And that's a good point. But I also think now Michigan fans are a different beast. They think that so I feel like you get almost Alabama expectations without Alabama resources.
Yep. It's I think situationally right now Michigan is not an A job, but like under normal circumstances it would be. But I agree with what you're saying.
Like if Jim Harbaugh didn't go to Michigan, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh takes the Michigan job.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. He took it because his dad coached there, and you know he had love for that place. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's an A job because of the conference and the name, and you know all that other shit. But it's a tough, like, you have to win. You have to beat Ohio State. It's a tough job to have.
Like if Michigan goes to James Franklin and offers him the job, do you think he takes it?
I would say no because of like he's already in a good spot at Penn State. Now I'm trying to think of someone who would take the step up, but it's hard to say.
It feels like Lane Kiffin's due for an A+ job. I don't think he leaves Ole Miss for.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a coach that wants to take that job with all that's going on in that program right now. So
right.
I mean,
and that's also true.
So,
oh man, well we know all too well about a coaching search. We just had one a couple years ago, and I think to all of our initial reactions, I think it's turning out pretty well. You know, this time last year I was a bit frustrated. I saw a lot of buzz with Coach Prime in Colorado, and then I saw Nebraska get their teeth knocked in by the Buffaloes, and thought, my gosh, it doesn't take that long to get the program back on its feet. Turns out, that is true. It doesn't take very long, and Nebraska's back on their feet.